We've made it to the frackin' playoffs. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. 14 teams remain. Only one can win the Super Bowl. Who will it be? Probably the Chiefs. Grossi, and today what we are going to do is going to be breaking down and ranking all 14 teams heading into Super Wild Card Weekend. And listen, this is my favorite time of the year, not only because it's the playoffs, but also because things calm down a little bit during the week. Predictions are no longer 16 games, so I get to actually dive into these teams and kind of give some more analysis and in-depth thoughts on each of these teams. And so for this week, there's not going to be a ton of memes on this episode just because I want to just break down these teams and talk frackin' football. I am very excited for the postseason, and thank you so much for tuning in. Before we get into it, I want to do a big shout out and thank you to you all. Yesterday, we put out every NFL fan's reaction to Week 18 and scripted Week 18, and because of that, it was the fourth largest day in this channel's history in terms of subscriber growth. We had over 5,000 subscribers. I put little promos at the end asking folks to subscribe, and listen, I know it's a pain in the ass. I've been on YouTube for almost 10 years, and yet none of these videos have sponsors. Everything that I put out is completely and totally free, and it will always stay that way. And so, as we try to race to 1 million subscribers and get the gold plaque on the wall before I gotta move out of the house, if you've enjoyed the content over the past decade, feel free to like and subscribe. I appreciate the hell out of you. And yes, I'm my own ad now. And so before we get to number 14, the way that I'm going to be handling power rankings this week is, one, we're going to talk about each team's season as a whole, how they're playing heading into the postseason, and also their likelihood of winning their wild card matchup, because there's a few teams it is going to be a tough one. And so with all that being said, starting off at number 14, you got the Denver Broncos. And before you get all upset at me, Broncos fans, I don't even think you're in the worst position heading into Wild Card Weekend. I unfortunately think you have the worst matchup, because going up against the Bills at home, that is going to be tough. But let's talk about the Denver Broncos, because the Broncos have had a sensational season, especially when you compare it to the expectations that were held against them heading into this year. You had a massive amount of dead cap after getting rid of Russell Wilson. You drafted a rookie quarterback at Bo Nix, which was almost universally destroyed on the internet by pundits and talking heads. And Sean Payton has gotten this team into a position not only to have a winning record this year, but also to get into the playoffs. And for the Broncos, it's been a while since they got into the postseason. And taking a look at what the Broncos did over this past season, looking at the offense, points per game scored, ranks 10th in the league. They were 16th in rushing offense. They were 20th in passing offense. And over on the defensive side, it was their real bread and butter. Defensive points per game allowed, they were 3rd in the league. They were 3rd in rushing defense and 19th in passing defense. And that defense, especially after allowing 70 points scored on them by the Dolphins last year, the turnaround has been sensational. Pat Surtain has had a phenomenal year. Nick Bonito has been a star for the Broncos, and that defense has really helped elevate that team. While the offense at times has been inconsistent, that defense has been pretty damn well, besides, that Cleveland Browns game on Monday night. But hey, at least it was a fun game. And the reason why the Broncos are at number 14 for me right now is because their offense, they have an uphill battle they have been facing all season. With a rookie quarterback, though Bo Nix has shown plenty of flashes, and I know they beat the ever-living crap out of the Chiefs backups last week, but you talk about their run game, they're in the bottom 3rd of the league. They definitely need some more weapons at receiver, probably another tight end as well. And again, this is great news for the Broncos, because for them, they're playing with house money. Regardless of how they play in the postseason, and of course, they're going to want a win. I'm not telling you to settle for mediocrity, but they have been able to do pretty damn well, all things considered. They're one of the 3 teams that have made it within their division, which is insane. The AFC West was pretty damn competitive this year, and even though those last 2 games against the Chargers and the Bengals were very disappointing, the Broncos were in it. They were leading against the Chargers where they blew it in the second half, and they went toe-to-toe with the Bengals, who almost made it into the postseason. And so now, after doing their job against the Chiefs backups, here they are against the Buffalo Bills, against Von Miller. Miller's got to go up against his former team, which I'm sure is painful for him. And ultimately, I think the odds are stacked against the Broncos here to get the win, which is why I'm ranking them all the way down at 14. Their offense definitely still needs to grow. Their defense has been really good and consistent throughout the year, but going up against a really high-quality opponent, it's going to be difficult for them to get the win. However, if they will, I think it will be because of their defense. They might be able to stop the rushing attack of the Bills with a third-ranked rushing defense, but stopping Josh Allen is always going to be a challenge. And so because of that, Broncos, congratulations on making the playoffs. Your prize, you got to face the Bills. Number 13, you got the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'm not going to lie, it was a real debate for me yesterday on whether I wanted to put the Steelers on the bottom at 14 or at 13, because in terms of momentum, the Steelers, they got the least amount of it heading into the postseason. They have lost 4 straight games, and it has not been particularly pretty. The offense has not been able to get things going, whether it's Russell Wilson or George Pickens not catching balls, or on top of that, the defense and the injuries in the secondary, it has been tough. And taking a look at the Steelers this season, on offense, points per game, they ranked 16th. They were the 11th best rushing offense. They were the 27th best passing offense, which is not so great. However, on defense, they were 8th in points per game allowed. They were the 6th best rushing defense and the 25th best passing defense. And so for the Steelers, none of these numbers are terribly surprising. Of course, Russell Wilson has had his ups and downs, and hey, listen, he can still throw a great sideline pass, but the consistency, that has been a problem. On top of that, the passing defense has not been so great, especially with injuries. And so because of that, the Steelers, they are not having a fun time heading into this postseason. The Steelers, of course, had control of the AFC North before giving it up to the Baltimore Ravens. And the only real reason why I'm marking the Steelers above the Broncos right now is because I like their matchup with the Ravens better than the Broncos against the Bills. And the reason I do is because it's a divisional matchup. The Steelers and Ravens usually battle it out, and when it comes to the postseason, you just never know. The Steelers know how to play the Baltimore Ravens, so much so they were kicking their ass before the Ravens won their last matchup. And so maybe the Steelers have a shot here, but they are going to need to show up. And I know there's a lot of Steelers fans who are upset about Mike Tomlin and the coaching right now, and I totally understand that. And who knows, maybe there will be a change in Pittsburgh. Personally, I don't think there's going to be this season. I think there does need to be improvements on that offense when it comes to players and personnel, maybe even quarterback. But at the end of the day, the Steelers were able to still get a playoff spot. I know for their fans, it's not going to be enough to just lose in the playoffs and be back at the same position that they're usually at. But going up against the Ravens, maybe they got a shot against their AFC North rival. But as of right now, they're at number 13. Number 12, you got the Houston Texans. The Texans. It has been an interesting season, to say the least, for Houston, and I think that heading into this season in terms of expectations was the complete opposite of a team like the Denver Broncos, because the expectations for the Texans were sky high. CJ Stroud had a breakout rookie year last season. They went into the postseason. They beat the Cleveland Browns. They lost against the Ravens in the divisional round, and ultimately heading into this year, going and getting guys like Joe Mixon or Stephon Diggs, the expectations for the offense were insane. And unfortunately, due to things like injury, bad offensive line play, I can see how this season has been pretty darn disappointing, especially where they were expected to go. However, taking a look at their stats, it tells a little bit of a different story, and a team that maybe is good right now, but is just falling short of being great because of the things that I just mentioned. They ranked 19th on offense in points per game. They were the 15th best rushing offense. They were the 21st best passing offense. And then taking a look at the defensive side of the ball, where they've been much better. They were ranked 14th in points per game allowed. They were 11th in rushing defense, and they were the 6th best passing defense. And their defense has been consistent over these past few games and has been a bright spot for this Texans defense throughout the entire season. The offense, though, that's where things have fallen a bit short. And again, there's a lot of things that you can look at. Joe Mixon, I did not think he was going to have a great season with the Texans. I was very, very wrong there. He has been a great addition to that offense. But with Stephon Diggs going down, Tank Dell going down, the offensive line just not really giving CJ Stroud a lot of time, and CJ Stroud not playing his best ball, it has led to the offense not being the best version of themselves. However, they were able to win the AFC South once again, and taking a look at the rest of that division, the Titans just fired their GM. Who the hell knows what the Colts are doing? And the Jaguars, they kept Trent Baalke, so that tells you all you need to know. They are a mess. And so the outlook for the Texans, I think, going forward is very, very bright. Guys are going to get healthier, which is going to be very helpful. And if they nail this draft and free agency, I think they're going to be right right back in the mix. They're going to be going up against the Chargers this week, which I think is a very tough matchup. I think this will be a pretty close game, and it's definitely a winnable game for the Texans. But just heading into this postseason, I don't have a ton of faith in that Texans offense, especially going up against a good Chargers defense. And so because of that, for me, they are ranked at number 12. Number 11, you got the LA Rams. The Rams getting it done. They won their division. Yes, they lost against the Seattle Seahawks. They were starting Jimmy Garoppolo, so they didn't get to move up to the 3 seed. But ultimately, the Rams, they got it done and won the NFC West. And taking a look at the rest of their division, it was interesting this year. The 49ers, they were beat to hell. They did not look good. The Seahawks were definitely competitive. They got to 10 wins, but they just missed out on the playoffs. And of course, you had the Cardinals, who had the division and then decided, never mind, they didn't want it. And for the Rams heading into this year, I think there were some nice surprises. I think the Rams were a surprising team last year to see how well they were playing because there was a lot of concerns about their offensive line. But when they had Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua on the field, that offense was pretty darn good. And Jared Verse has had an outstanding rookie year. And so because of that, the Rams are back into the postseason. And taking a look what they did this past season, they ranked 20th in points per game scored on offense. They ranked 24th in rushing offense. They were 10th in passing offense. Over on the defensive side, they were 17th in points allowed per game. They ranked 22nd in rushing defense and 20th in passing defense. And so for a lot of these stats, they kind of seem to be middle of the road or the back end of the league, except they were a top 10 passing offense, led by Matthew Stafford. And as I mentioned before, having a healthy Puka, having a healthy Cooper Kupp, this team has the potential. We've seen them go toe-to-toe with the Buffalo Bills and win. They've beaten the Minnesota Vikings, the team that they're going to be playing this week. So you can obviously see the potential of the Rams, but it's the consistency, and they don't show up every single week, and sometimes they don't even score touchdowns, but hey, they wind up winning the game anyway. And so for me, looking at the Rams, I do think they have a decent possibility of beating the Vikings once again. I think it is going to be a challenge because even though the Vikings didn't look good against the Lions, I do think they are the better football team right now. And so for the Rams, I have them ranked down at number 11. They definitely have a shot. You never know with Stafford because he can make some magic happen. But for me, right now, the Rams, they rank at 11. Number 10, you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers, it was a little bit close against the New Orleans Saints, but they were able to get it done. Mike Evans got 1,000 yards, and they find themselves back in the postseason once again. And for the Buccaneers, not only winning their division again, which is definitely an accomplishment, but to do it with that current defense, especially looking at that pass defense, Chris Godwin being out, Todd Bowles, I know, is constantly under fire from fans, but you got to give that entire organization a lot of credit to be able to go out there. Baker Mayfield, yes, he throws some interceptions, but good God, man, the way he plays this game, I absolutely love seeing it. And taking a look at the Buccaneers season, they ranked 4th in points per game scored on offense. They were the 4th best rushing attack in the NFL. They were the 3rd best passing attack in the NFL. And then taking a look at the defense, they ranked 16th in points allowed per game. They're the 4th best rushing defense, Vita Vea, and they ranked 29th in passing defense, which is big yikes. And I think that is going to be ultimately the thing that could sink the Buccaneers this season. And again, they deserve a lot of credit for being a top 5 offense, even with Chris Godwin out. Bucky Irving has been a phenomenal addition to that offense. Baker Mayfield, when he is on, he is looking really damn good. And of course, Mike Evans is an absolute stud. And for the Buccaneers going up against the Commanders, that's a really fun matchup. And I think on Sunday night, that is going to be an excellent primetime game. The Buccaneers playing at home, I think they have a great opportunity to win that game against Washington, as they have a rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels who is coming in. And honestly, the Buccaneers match up really well against the Commanders because the Commanders' strength on offense is rushing the ball. They're ranked 17th in passing offense. And so if they're able to contain Jaden Daniels and stop the run like they've been doing all season, I would not be surprised if the Buccaneers got a win on Sunday night. Where I am going to take off a few points for the Buccaneers and why they're currently ranked at 10th is not only because of their passing defense, but it's also going to be because of consistency. There are times when Baker Mayfield does throw a lot of interceptions, or they do struggle getting out of the gate. Taking a look even at this past game against the Saints, a game where they had to win to get in, or at least the Falcons just needed to lose, which the Panthers wound up beating them anyway. But ultimately with the Buccaneers, I'm very curious to see what team is going to appear on the field on Sunday night. If it's a team that's able to get the ball to Mike Evans, Baker Mayfield doesn't have any interceptions, and Bucky Irving's able to run the ball effectively, I think the Buccaneers have a good chance of beating the Commanders here. And from there, who knows how far they can go. But for me right now, I think they're the 10th best team in the playoffs, which is a pretty damn good spot considering they lost one of the best wide receivers in the game in Chris Godwin. And hey, let's see how far that duck can fly. Number 9, You got the Green Bay mother-loving Packers. And listen, last night while I was ranking these teams, I had a tough time placing the Packers. And I know there's always going to be this perception that Tom's a homer and he's always going to elevate his Packers. And listen, I'm always going to go to bat for the Packers. However, it is now put up or shut up time for the Packers. There have been inefficiencies in the Packers game, whether it has been in the secondary, whether it's been in the pass rush, or needing another wide receiver. A Christian Watson injury does not help things. You talk about the play calling, which was horrific against the Chicago Bears. And now, at a 0-0 record in the postseason, it's now or never. And looking at the Packers on paper, they've had a really damn good season. On offense, they ranked 8th in points per game scored. They were the 5th best rushing attack in the NFL. Thank you very much, Josh Jacobs. They ranked 12th in passing offense, and over on defense, holy crap, man, what a turnaround. They ranked 6th in points per game allowed. They were the 7th best rushing defense. That's right, Packers fans. We finally have a top 10 rushing defense, which is pretty damn incredible. Thank you, Jeff Hafley. And they ranked 13th in passing defense, which is not too bad either, considering Jair Alexander has missed about 2 months. Evan Williams has been banged up, and hell, even Quay Walker, he's been injured as well. So why is everyone so down on the Green Bay Packers? Well, heading into the playoffs, they lost against the Minnesota Vikings. They came out really slow out of the gate against the Vikings in that first half, just like they did in their first matchup earlier this season. They lost to the Bears. Yes, a bunch of that was with their backups, but when Jordan Love was in the game, they were down by a couple of scores. And unfortunately, while they did improve on their record from last year of 9-8 to 11-6, their divisional record was 1-5. Now, taking a look at the opponents that they lost to, they got swept by the Lions, they got swept by the Vikings, and they lost to the Eagles week 1, and of course, now the Chicago Bears. And so besides the Bears game, the only defeats that they had were against these playoff teams, and one of them is the 1 seed and the other is the 2 seed. And so I'm not stressing too much about that, but with all the things we talked about with the Packers of starting slow, bad play calling, it is all going to come to a head to Philadelphia. The Packers are the 7 seed, and they have to go on the road to beat the Eagles. Now, talking about the Eagles right now, there's going to be a lot of talk this week about the status of Jalen Hurts, that he didn't clear concussion protocol. As of recording this right now, he didn't clear concussion protocol, but they also didn't practice yesterday, so he couldn't clear concussion protocol. I imagine he is going to be ready to go, though I'm sure Nick Sirianni is going to have some smoke and mirrors, but I would be shocked if Jalen Hurts is not on the field, and the Packers are going to have to contend with that. Now, if the Packers are able to get some folks back from injury, like Quay Walker, like Evan Williams, and Romeo Doubs returning from an illness, I think the Packers definitely have a shot. However, this team is not better for losing Christian Watson. When he's on the field, this offense is better. Statistically, it is just proven. And so the Packers have a tough matchup on the road. However, what Packers team is going to show up? They were the 7 seed. They were 9-8 heading into last year, going up against the Cowboys, and they beat the crap out of the Cowboys. I don't imagine the Packers are going to do the same thing to the Eagles, but I still like their chances of potentially squeaking out a win. It's going to be about stopping Saquon Barkley with that 6th best rushing defense and containing Jalen Hurts and their litany of weapons. If they're able to do that and lean on that defense, and Jordan Love doesn't have any turnovers like he hasn't had in the past month and a half, the Packers have a decent shot of beating the Philadelphia Eagles. So because of that, they had a good season. I know there's a lot of doom and gloom around the Packers right now, but statistically, they're a pretty damn good team. I hope that they show it on Sunday, and from there, we'll see if they can get the victory. Number 8, you got the Washington Commanders. The Commanders! Look at them. Got a last-second win over the Dallas Cowboys to clinch the 6th seed. And in Washington, it's pretty damn exciting times. New ownership, new franchise QB, and things are looking pretty darn good. And the Commanders, similar to the Broncos, they are playing with house money. I don't think a lot of people expected the Commanders to make the postseason this year, and the fact that they have done it and that defense has looked better than almost anybody anticipated is pretty darn good. Not talking about their rushing defense, but we'll get there. Taking a look on the offense, they are a top 5 scoring offense. They ranked 5th with 28.5 points scored per game. They are the 3rd best rushing attack, the 17th best passing attack. And over on the defensive side, they are 18th in points allowed per game. They are 30th in rushing defense, which is not so good, especially going up against the Buccaneers, but they are 3rd in passing defense. And that, I think, has been the biggest surprise heading into this year, because the Commanders defense, that was a unit. They lost a bunch of guys last year that I was looking at going, oof, that could be potentially problematic heading into this year. Turns out, while their rushing defense is not good, their passing defense is making up for it. And even though Marshawn Lattimore hasn't played a ton, they got Lattimore as well, who will be going up against his good old friend Mike Evans. And for the Commanders, it's a really interesting matchup against the Buccaneers. I think it's a total toss-up as to who can win that game. We'll talk about it in predictions tomorrow. But the Commanders right now, they have a lot of momentum on their side. I think if Jaden Daniels plays a clean game and they are somehow able to get a rushing attack going, they got a good shot of beating the Buccaneers. But as of right now, I got the Commanders ranked at number 8. They might be a little bit high. I think you can make an argument that maybe the Buccaneers or the Packers could be above them. But hey, like I said, it's all house money for the Commanders right now. Wildflower's happy, and with a damn good offense and a good pass defense, maybe they can cause some upsets in the postseason. Number 7, you got the LA Chargers. The Chargers, they made the freaking playoffs the first year under Harbaugh. Their offense is running well. Their defense is pretty damn good, and all is well in LA. And listen, Chargers fans, there have been years where I've been very high on the Chargers and they have let me down. And Chargers fans are probably thinking, first time? No, the Chargers have let me down many times when I've actually believed in them. But I was sitting there around 12 o'clock last night going through these rankings, and the first thought that came to my mind when I got to the Chargers was, honestly, I can see them winning a Super Bowl within 2 to 3 years. Now, I know that's a very bold statement, but considering what Harbaugh has done to this team and considering how they have drafted, and they crushed this draft, I think that if they're able to nail free agency and nail the upcoming draft, this could be a contending team for quite a while. They got their franchise QB, their run game is good, they just need a few more weapons, and that offense can really start humming. Taking a look at what they did this season, they were the 11th best scoring offense, they ranked 17th in rushing offense, 19th in passing offense, and over on the defensive side, they were the best defense in the league when it came to points per game, allowing 17.7 points. They were the 14th best rushing defense and the 7th best passing defense. So yeah, that defense, pretty damn good. And for the Chargers, they're also playing with house money. I also really love their matchup against the Houston Texans. I think they match up with them pretty darn well, and I think they'll be able to stop that offense, especially if they're able to get after CJ Stroud. But ultimately for the Chargers, this has been a phenomenal season for their fan base. There is a ton of excitement. I think there's a very good chance the Chargers wind up winning their first playoff game, and if they wind up taking a visit to the Chiefs, who knows? It's a divisional game. Things could get close. But I'm ranking the Chargers at 7 because while their offense definitely can get better with some more weapons, their defense is really good. They have their head coach. And honestly, I think I'm going to see him in the divisional round. And from there, we'll see what happens. Number 6, you got the purple incarnation of Satan, the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings, oh boy, they got their ass kicked on Sunday Night Football in front of the world by the Detroit Lions. And honestly, yeah, Vikings fans, I get it. It's tough because the Vikings heading into this season, you want to talk about house money. The Vikings are playing with all of it. They were competing for the number 1 seed in the NFC and the NFC North. In a year where everyone thought the Lions were going to dominate the NFC, they were going to dominate the division, it turned out to be a 2-team race, and the Vikings were one of them with Sam frickin' Darnold. And listen, Vikings fans, I get it. That old familiar feeling came back where everything's on the line. You need to show up for this game and your team blew it again. I understand. This is a common occurrence. And usually while I would make fun of you and call you the purple incarnation of Satan, I get how that is frustrating. The good news for the Vikings is that they won 14 games this year and are the current 5 seed. And even though they have to go on a road against a team that's already beaten them, they've had a phenomenal season. And on top of that, they can make some waves in the postseason. Taking a look at what they did during the regular season, they were a top 10 offense in terms of scoring. They ranked 9th. They were the 19th best rushing offense and the 6th best passing offense. And over on the defensive side of things, they ranked 5th in points allowed per game, 2nd in rushing defense, and 28th in passing defense. And so that secondary has definitely been disappointing, but damn, that defensive line and stopping the run, that is where they've been really good. Unless your name is Jahmyr Gibbs, apparently. And taking a look at Sam Darnold and his performance on Sunday, obviously that doesn't stoke any confidence because he did not play well. The offensive line did not play well, and they really got blown out by the Lions by the end of that game, though for a good chunk of it, it was very, very close. And the Vikings, I still think, can go toe-to-toe with some of the better teams in the league. It's just going to be a matter of, hey, can they show up in big moments? And as of right now, there's some question marks there. Going up against the Rams and Stafford, I do like that matchup a lot. However, looking at that 28th best passing defense, that gives me concern against a top 10 passing offense that Stafford and the Rams currently have. So they are going to need to stop Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, or the Vikings might lose this game against the Rams yet again. But as of right now, the Vikings do remain at number 6. I don't know if they're going to be able to beat a team like the Lions if they play them again in the playoffs, or the Eagles, but arguably I think you could say the Vikings are the 3rd best team in the NFC right now. And considering where they started, JJ McCarthy going down before a single snap, I think that's pretty damn good, Minnesota. And from here, I don't know where things go, but your season isn't over yet, and you're currently ranked at number 6. Number 5, you got the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens, they're able to take care of the Cleveland Browns on Saturday and punch their ticket into the postseason. Lamar Jackson is competing with Josh Allen for MVP honors, and he's even having a better season than he did last year. The only unfortunate side effect from Saturday, of course, is Zay Flowers going down. They don't think that injury is going to be serious, but there is some concern that he might not be able to go on Saturday night. But the Ravens, they've had a great year. No, it wasn't as good as they had last year when they clinched the number 1 overall seed, but their offense this year has been phenomenal, and their defense has been improving. Taking a look at their offense, they were the 3rd best scoring offense in the league. They were the best rushing attack in the NFL, ranking 1st. Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, that's the reason why. And they were the 7th best passing offense in the league. So their offense is a top 10 unit. You saw it throughout the entire year, and that gives me a ton of confidence for the Ravens going forward that they can go toe-to-toe with any of the teams that are remaining in the postseason. Taking a look at the defense, they ranked 9th in points allowed per game, which is pretty damn good. They were the best run defense in the league. However, they were the 31st passing defense in the league, which is woof. And that is their Achilles heel. Can they stop the high-flying offenses? And if we wind up seeing the Bills versus the Ravens, good God, that match is going to feed families, because that should be a really, really fun game. The good news for the Ravens is that the only team in the AFC that has a top 10 passing offense that's remaining in the playoffs is the Buffalo Bills. So like I said, the Ravens can go toe-to-toe with just about anybody in this postseason. And I know for Ravens fans, it's just about which team is going to show up. Now for the Ravens, I'm not a huge fan of this matchup on Saturday for Baltimore. It's a division rival, and just like last year, I didn't really want the Ravens to play anybody from their division because you never know at the AFC North. However, the Ravens were able to take care of business before Christmas against the Steelers, and I think they should be able to do so again. The Ravens are a really exciting team, especially on offense, and if their defense can continue to dominate at the line of scrimmage and contain any wide receivers and just don't let them get past you, the Ravens are going to be contending for a Super Bowl. We just got to see which playoff Ravens show up and hope it's the good one. Number 4, you got the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles were able to knock off the Giants, unfortunately not playing Saquon Barkley, but if you watch the Packers game, you understand. And for the Eagles, it was so interesting because heading into the season, obviously expectations are super high. They go out and get Saquon Barkley. They address their secondary, which was their biggest need on defense last year, besides firing Matt Patricia. And ultimately, it has helped significantly because that defense is really damn good. Taking a look at the Eagles' stats this season, they were the 7th best scoring offense in the league. They were the 2nd best rushing team in the NFL. However, they ranked 29th in passing offense, which, that one's not so good. But looking at the defensive side of things, they were the 2nd best defense in points allowed per game. They were a top 10 unit in rushing defense at number 10, and they were the best passing defense in the league. They crushed their draft picks with Mitchell and also DeJean, and it has made a huge difference on that defense, especially the secondary. And for the Eagles, they are a very well-balanced attack. Of course, Saquon Barkley is going to lead the charge. Jalen Hurts has not had the best of seasons, and I know that the media has been very critical of him, but there's also been games where he has shown the hell up, like that Ravens game, and they've been able to get some big-time wins, and that's why I currently have the Eagles ranked over the Ravens. And for the Eagles heading into this Sunday, I know a lot of it's going to be about Jalen Hurts, but like I said, I think he's going to be ready to go. They're going to be going up against a Packers team who they are able to knock off week 1, and the Packers will be without Christian Watson. Being played at home, I think the Eagles will be pretty damn favored in this matchup. However, I don't think it is the best matchup for the Eagles because if Jalen Hurts does struggle, the Packers' run defense, they are able to contain running backs this year, which I know, I still don't really believe it saying it, but if they're able to contain Saquon, this could be a really damn close game. And so for the Eagles, they clinch the 2nd seed, they get the Packers at home, which I don't think is the most fortunate matchup for them. I know they wanted to see the Commanders, but ultimately, I still think the Eagles are the 2nd best team in the NFC. And we'll see if they're able to handle the Packers, unlike the Cowboys last year. Please don't. Number 3, you got the Buffalo Bills. The Bills clinching the 2 seed. They got to relax. Josh Allen played a snap. They had Trubisky go in. The Patriots won. They lost their number 1 overall pick. So it was a pretty damn good week for Buffalo. And the Bills, holy crap, man. Not only did they win the AFC East once again, their whole reload season, well, that was a myth because they were phenomenal this year. They were the second best scoring offense with 30.9 points per game. They were the 9th best rushing attack. James Cook had a phenomenal year. I know Pro Bowl snub, whatever. That's why the Pro Bowl doesn't mean anything anymore. They were the 9th best passing offense. And over on defense, they were 11th in points allowed per game. They were the 12th best rushing defense, and they ranked 24th in passing defense. And so while their secondary could definitely be better, they were a top 10 offense this year. Josh Allen had a phenomenal season. He's competing against Lamar Jackson for MVP. I think there's a decent chance Allen wind up winning that, especially with the fact that his receivers, they got rid of Stephon Diggs, even though he pretty much just didn't show up last year. So rocking with Coleman and Shakir, being able to do all of this without a top wide receiver, or at least someone who is perceived as a top wide receiver, is pretty damn impressive. And the Bills clinching the 2nd seed, if they're going to see the Chiefs, it is going to be in the AFC Championship game. And I know that's the hurdle they can never get over, but maybe, just maybe, it is Buffalo all the way this time. I love their matchup against the Denver Broncos. The only thing that does concern me is how good the rushing defense of Denver is. And I think that could potentially be a problem with James Cook. But as we've seen, Josh Allen is able to just light up teams. And while the Broncos do have a decent passing defense at 19, we all know Josh Allen could carve them up. And so being played at home in Buffalo, I like the Bills here. I think they have a great matchup. They've had a great season, and they're the 2nd best team in the AFC. Let's see if they can go all the way this time. Number 2, I know I'm going to get some crap from this, but hey, Sunday was a good game. You got the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs, they got blown out by the Denver Broncos. They got stuck on the runway, and I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm going to fast forward through that because I don't really care. There's going to be some media folks that are saying, oh, the lack of depth, whatever. I don't care. I don't care. The Chiefs, they are the best team in the AFC. They clinched the number 1 seed, home field advantage. The last time we saw their starters play, they absolutely dominated the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their run game looked great. Mahomes looked great. Their defense was phenomenal, even without Chris Jones. And even though their team has been heavily criticized this year and their stats aren't the best, they've lost 2 freaking games and only 1 with their starters. Taking a look on offense, they scored 22.6 points per game, which ranked them 15th. They were the 22nd best rushing defense, the 14th best passing offense. None of these numbers are insane, but looking at their defense, they were 4th in points allowed per game. They were the 8th best rushing defense and 18th best passing defense. And so once again, the Chiefs defense has been really damn good. It helped them win a Super Bowl last year, and look, it doesn't look like they've fallen off much into this upcoming postseason. And for the Chiefs, the way that I'm looking at Kansas City, they are the best team in the AFC until proven otherwise. Yes, the Buffalo Bills beat them earlier this year. The Bills almost always beat them during the regular season. And when it comes to the playoffs, they never do. Can the Chiefs finally lose in the postseason to a team that's not the Bengals because they can't lose to Tom Brady? That remains to be seen, and it's up to the other AFC teams to prove that they can go into Arrowhead and beat them. And so, the Chiefs are ranking at number 2 because they have one of the best home field advantages in the entire league. The last time we saw their starters, they were dominant, and I think whoever is going into Kansas City, it is going to be a challenge to knock them off. Now, where I can see things getting interesting, if it's the Broncos, if it's the Chargers, because divisional matchups, you never know. The Chiefs have been involved with some close ones this year. And so, Chiefs, you're currently sitting at number 2. Enjoy the bye, and we'll see how dominant you are next week. And finally, number 1, you got the Detroit Lions. And the reason why the Lions are ranked number 1 is because holy crap was their defense impressive on Sunday night. The Lions, they have gone through it this year. They lost a couple of games. They've lost every single defender under the sun. They lost David Montgomery. And on Sunday night, with it all on the line at Ford Field, their red zone defense, superb. Anzalone coming back, a huge difference maker in that game. Their offense has been incredible. How incredible? They're the best scoring offense in the NFL at 33.2 points per game. They ranked 6th best rushing offense, 2nd best passing offense. They're firing on all cylinders. Defense, they were the 7th best defense in terms of points per game allowed. They were the 5th best rushing defense, and they were ranked 30th in passing defense. We know that that's not good. Their secondary has been an issue this year, and again, a litany of injuries and just the secondary not playing up to par. We understand. But the Lions still only lost a couple of games and are still the number 1 seed. And so the road to the Super Bowl through the NFC is running through Detroit. But the reason why they're number 1 is because what they did to the Vikings was so damn impressive. But 2, the Lions have an opportunity to get even better in these playoffs. We talked about Anzalone coming back, but more reinforcements might be on the way. Dan Campbell announced that it is likely that David Montgomery will return for the divisional round. They could be getting back Derek Barnes, Carlton Davis, and hell, they could be getting back Aiden Hutchinson if they go far enough in the playoffs. Having this 1 week bye is phenomenal for them to get healthy. They are able to relax. Every single opponent is going to come through Detroit. And right now, being played at Ford Field, that is a hostile environment, and it's going to be difficult for any team to go in there and get the win. With the way that this Lions offense is playing, they are not missing a beat without David Montgomery and will be even better when he returns in the postseason. And so for right now, I think the Lions can honestly just outscore just about anybody in the NFC. I think their best and most toughest matchup would be against a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, which we might wind up seeing in the NFC Championship game if it comes to that. But for right now, I think the Lions are the most impressive team in this playoffs. And yeah, Lions, let's see if you get it done. And so just to recap, at number 1, you got the Lions, 2 Chiefs, 3 Bills, 4 Eagles, 5 Ravens, 6 Vikings, 7 Chargers, 8 Commanders, 9 Packers, 10 Buccaneers, 11 Rams, 12 Texans, 13 Steelers, and 14 Broncos. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Where do you have these teams ranked? Let me know. You know, find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or at Tom Grossi Comedy. All social media, see down below. A big shout out and thank you to all the Patreon and YouTube members for supporting this channel. And thank you, folks, for all the subscribers that have been coming in lately. We're on the road to 1 million. I'll see you tomorrow for predictions. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack, go.